football hooliganism and all that, it's segued into this political stuff that you started getting into, because originally you were doing the socialist stuff, weren't you? And then you went over to what people call the right.
Well, it would have been then. I suppose. Look, it was the Young Socialists who turned out to be the Workers' Revolutionary Party. I was a bit naive there, and it was at times where they were quite derogatory about the British Army. I held them responsible for bringing out a patriotism in me that I didn't know I had. I wasn't conscious of it at all. But it made me start reading a lot more, which is no bad. Obviously, that's no bad thing. But my mates gave me an ultimatum one day. Frank, look, it's over the football, the politics, and I went, yeah, fair enough. And I knocked the politics on the head. And I was quite idealistic. You know, I was listening to people talking about the working class, bad education, especially around here. The houses, still outside toilets. You know, I was still, up until I was 20, I was still in a house with an outside toilet and a tin bar on the thing. So when they merged Camden from Holborn, St Pancras and Hampstead, I don't know if some genius thought, I would all be equal. Well, I don't know how many people living up in Hampstead had a tin bar for them. Fucking now on the wall, I'm sure they didn't. So I suppose I liked what these young people had to say. But what I did discover was the middle classes, and I had fucking no idea who they were. So I completely went away. And one night, a fella came in a pub, good mate of mine, worked down Smithfield Market, and he gave me a leaflet. You don't look at it at the time, you put it in your back pocket. Don't know if it was even the next day, a couple of days later, I read this. And it was a National Front leaflet. And I see him again, he said, you read the leaflet? I said, yeah. And he invited me, there was a meeting in King's Cross in a hotel. And there I was again, fully involved. You know, I landed up being the organiser around here, Camden. I sold papers, I leafleted, I went on demonstrations which were very violent. And you talk about looking back on the football.
Were they worse?
Right? Yeah, in some respects, And don't forget, you almost felt like you're fighting for your country, you're fighting for your people. That's a much more intense thing. And I very much looked at it as well that I did take on a little bit of a protector role, in the sense that there was ordinary men and women who just had a different political opinion to our opponents. And these people wanted to kill them. They wanted to do proper harm to them. So you become protective. You think, I've got to be there. I've got to be on that minibus. I've got to be on that coach. I've got to look after these people. My mind went somewhere else. And it was only after writing the book, which I didn't want to do, but mates said to me, Frank, if you got run over a bus tomorrow, it'd be like 30 odd years of our history, political and social history. And I agreed. It was a bit of an effort, but
what did you feel about all that?
I think it was of its time. It was of its time in the sense that, well, what was the alternative? What was the alternative? I think some people back 40 odd years ago were very astute people, right? But we called them mad, we called them lunatics, we called them extremists, we called them Little England. I hear all the same language now, basically, what I heard then. Even some people I thought back then, I thought, that's a bit extreme. That's a bit extreme. How's that going to work out? But some of the things that they predicted are all happening now. And I mean, I went on a young man's podcast, young black fella, and he knew what my past was. And he said to me, did you really believe the manifesto and all that? And I said, well, look, think about it now. Right, think about it now. When you say repatriation, how exactly are you going to carry that out? What are you going to do? March people down to the docks at gunpoint? Well, that's not what I agreed with. Not at all. Did I believe in splitting up families? No, not at all. Did I want violence against minorities? No, not at all. In fact, I remember the days of the skinheads, Slopacki bashing. I just saw that as being bullying. I didn't see that. Ironically, in areas eventually, it changed. It was white people being attacked. And you thought, hold on. But it still wouldn't have made me think that Paggy bashing was right. I still would have wanted a political, And I had a really good chat with this young black fella. Really good chat. And we went for a lot of stuff. And I said, look, it boils down to, I think in schools that they should have situations where you can sit down and have a conversation. and talk about everything.
Yes.
Sensibly. Don't take it out on the street. Don't turn it into violence.
Yeah.
You know, I think there should be more opportunities for people to debate and ask questions. Don't close people down.
No.
That's what causes the extremism.
Did you, from that situation, segue sort of into the UDA?
Well, what happened was you start reading about things, and it was noticeable. It was you had people who were almost like refugees, I suppose, in a sense, from the Troubles.
Yeah.
Would come and live in London, and we'd meet people. They'd radiate to the NF and eventually the BNP, because it was like a natural home for them because of the patriotism side of it. It wasn't so much the racism side of it. A lot of it was to do with being patriotic, wanting the best for this country. Yeah. There were quite provocative marches that used to take place in London. Every January was the Troops Out Parade. Yeah. Every August was the Irish Freedom Movement would have their anti-internment parades. Yeah. And there'd always be Irish Republican bands. Well, actually, they weren't. There were Scottish Republican bands at the front. And they would play quite openly. They tap their drum. They go, all right. Yeah. Now, weeks before, there'd been a bomb in London.
Yeah. I think people seem to forget. I mean, how many bombs were going off.
Exactly.
I remember them going off all
how far from here is the post office tower? What's now BT Tower?
Absolutely, and then Brighton and
so you know, we kind of thought, this is a fucking liberty. This was you can't have this, and you'd have hundreds of Celtic fans coming down. It was a proper day out for them, the Celtic boys, you know. Mm-hmm. So we started to attack these parades at different times, and I suppose a penny dropped one day. We said, well, you know, we're throwing a few fucking punches, they're blowing us up. It ain't exactly equal, is it? Mm. And from then on, it was, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, what are we going to do about it? We're not paramilitaries. Yeah. You know, we're just ordinary blokes with a point of view and so on. And eventually we did meet somebody who had a connection with the UDA, and we met the man that was running London at the time, a Scotsman. Thoroughly unimpressed with him. Yes. And I said, look, I'm not interested in my mate. And it wasn't existing, say, UDA in London. And I said, I'm not interested in my mates with these people, with him. Yeah. Fuck that. And over a course of time, Liam, it just became one of, well, frankly, we're going to follow anyone. Like the football. Yeah. We're going to follow you.
Yeah. And how did you feel about them wanting to follow you?
Well, I had to say to them for a start, you've got to take into account there's already existing people. We can't come along and tread on people's toes and think we know it all and all that. But what I am going to want to establish very, very quickly is how militant are they? Yes. It's supposed to be a paramilitary organisation, and I didn't find anybody. Yeah, people sold newspapers, people sold badges, shirts, collect money for the Lawless Prisoners Aid. Didn't find too many people that were actually militant. Yes. And we made a decision that if we were going to get involved in this, that we were going to become militant. But I can look back on it now. People have said to me before now, oh Frank, do you think you was radicalised? No, I don't. I think I was the one doing the radicalising. Yes. Not necessarily conscious at the time, but looking back on it, I'd like a group of my mates to be here today and me say to them, look, you followed me through the football, you followed me through the right-wing stuff, and some of you eventually followed me into the loyalist stuff. How many of you followed it for what it was about? How many of you followed me? Because I think a lot of it was loyalty. Yeah. I do recognise that now, and I feel a sense of responsibility for that.
But for you, it was political, wasn't it? It was about national.
Oh yeah. It was a thought-out, conscious policy on my part. And when I eventually took an oath, I took that oath and I meant it.
And you take an oath, and you've got the Bible and a gun.
Yeah, the Bible and a gun, and a flag.
I was going to ask you about because I did see another interview that you did, and you were talking about, you know, getting guns and all of that. How do you go from like being a ordinary guy, football guy, and this, that, and the other, to suddenly being able to access guns and stuff? I mean, that's
because a lot of the fellas you've gone to football with, and the fellas you know from other clubs who might be sympathetic to the cause, if you like. Look, some people will do it for different reasons. Some people will do it because they believe in what you're doing, and they want to be active and they want to help. Yeah. No, they want to assist. Other people do it purely for money, you know, which was apparent when I went to prison, because blokes were coming up and saying, oh, how much did you get for the guns? And I go, what do you mean? Yeah. Oh, how much was you getting paid? I said, I didn't pay anything. Yeah. What, you was giving them to them? They don't get it because I understand, because they're villains. So they look at things from a pound note point of view. I wasn't doing it for that reason.
What's it like when you first? I mean, I'm doing this from a sort of punter's point of view.
Yeah.
You get your first gun. Do you have to go and practice with it?
We had a facility out in East Anglia. Someone had some shooting rights and some fishing rights, which then there was some property there as well.
Yeah.
You know, so it was pretty low-level stuff like you'd have filing cabinets. And you practiced from a distance, you know, and obviously your accuracy and so on. Probably the most dangerous time, I think, was when we had access to hand grenades. Yes. That was I dread to think what we'd have done if we'd have actually got them. Yes. And there was there was a case, I mean, it was a case. And I was asked a question once, would you, you know, I said something like, I dread to think what we'd have done. Yeah. And I said something like, I'd have gone into an Irish social club that, you know, I thought was, you know, had paid some sort of solace to the Republican movement, and I'd have gladly blown it up. Yeah. That was in a Sunday paper the following week.
How did it get to that?
That was in the Sunday World, really? You know. Next time I did a podcast or something, I had to say, listen, I need to explain this. Yeah. I'm talking about the building.
Yes, not the people.
You know, there's a group of young girls doing Irish dancing in there, or there's a load of old Irish girls playing bingo. I ain't going to go and blow them up, am I? No. But it's too late. Yeah. It's too late. The headline, that people have made use of the headline. But I do dread to think what we'd have done. And you're talking to a different bloke now. You're talking about someone who, very, very committed. Very, very committed.
But it was about the time, wasn't it? I mean, they were blowing up pubs.
End of 80s and early 90s in particular was a very, very, very violent time. And the trouble is, what happens is, and you can see this conflicts all around, you can see it in the Middle East now, your targets become less discerning. Yeah. So now you start thinking, well, who gives them information? Yeah. Who gives them money? Who sells their propaganda? He'll do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
because you were going to go after Ken Livingstone, weren't you?
Ken Livingstone, John McDonnell, Jeremy Corbyn. You know.
Would you actually have gone through that whole thing that you were going to take these people out? Yeah?
Oh yeah, because
how far did it go?
Our rationale at the time was one of, look, if you want to blow up Ian Gow, who's a Conservative MP, you know, if you want to. They'd obviously Inler had blown up Erie Neve, you know, in the garage at the House of Commons. If the people at the time, the politicians at the time, are going to support the people that do that, sorry, you're traitors. Yeah. You know, you brought them to the Houses of Parliament. You brought them to County Hall. You brought them to Islington Town Hall. You know, to us, you were traitors. And I made a very big mistake, and I take responsibility for it. I went to an inner council meeting in Belfast, in Gong Street, and I basically said, you know, why are you not targeting these people? Right. People look back on it now, there was at least two or three wrong ones in that room. Yeah. We all know it now. And so that got back. So of course we clearly got a lot of attention from
had you done much planning on this?
Listen, on one particular day, I mean, I'll say there was over 1,000 people. Don't forget there was no mobiles in those days. No. We'd gone around the country. We had over 1,000 people, different right-wing people, football people, loyalist people at Edgware Road. Yeah. Over 700... People talk about civil rights now, civil liberties, right? They took 700 people off the streets, right, and took them to various police stations, right? The protesters, right, were all gathered in Hyde Park, and we overheard a senior police officer say that they weren't going to leave the park unless we were dispersed. Right? And that's when it all started to go wrong. Right. Because the idea was we had all these people there to attack the parade. Livingstone was at the front. So the idea was to cause as much mayhem, isolate him. There was a gunman, there was someone on a motorbike, there was a safe house. The person was going to get in amongst, do him, get on the bike, get away, and so on. That completely went to pot. Really? That completely went to pot.
Are you glad in retrospect that that's what happened? I mean, that's a difficult question.
I'll say it like this: when I was on Cat A, my first visits were behind a screen.
Yeah.
Eventually, I did get a visit with my wife, still in a room on our own,
yes.
and two screws. And I said to her, "I'm glad I got caught." And she went, "What? Why can you want to get caught?" And I said, "Well, babe, where did you think this was going to lead to?" You know, I said, "You can't be in charge. You can't have guns wrapped around you and not use them."
Yeah.
And she said, "Are you telling me you'd have shot someone?" Mm-hmm. And to this day, I don't think I ever answered. I think I shrugged my shoulders. I think I kind of went. That's when it made me think.
Were there times when you had a gun on you where you had the option to shoot someone and you didn't know?
Circumstances stopped it happening.
Yeah. So you were kind of looked after in a way.
Look, I'll do a talk. I've done a couple of talks for the security industry.
Yeah.
A couple of seminars. And I'll do a talk called The Treadmill. It's called The Treadmill.
Yeah.
And I'll say to people, what you do is you get on a treadmill, you press the green button and you go forward. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right, don't look behind you, just keep going. One day you press the red button, and you get off and you go, how the fuck did I get here? Why didn't somebody else get on the treadmill? Why did other people encourage me to get on the treadmill? Why didn't they get on it?
Did you feel exploited in a way? Because you were the person that would carry something through, and so therefore you were kind of leading the thing. Did you feel your mates around you were going to support
what you can't do, right? What you can't do. I don't like barstool preachers, and I've known some of them for 40 years. They still fucking complain about the same thing they were complaining about 40 years ago and done nothing about it.
Yeah.
So I've got no time for them. If you're going to go to certain social clubs and places around the country and call people out and say you're a fucking fraud, you're meant to be the OC officer commander of a paramilitary organisation, what the fuck do you do?
Yeah.
Once you expose that person for what he is, a fraud, you've got to prove yourself then, otherwise you're a fraud.
Yes.
So that's what happens, it becomes a pressure to bear, and then people have put you up the front, so they're looking for leadership. So you've got to set an example. You lose total sight of you. You just... I look upon it now, I look at things I would have liked to have done, right? Creative stuff, different bits and pieces. Done none of it.
Because you are a creative person.
So I fucked up in school, never done it.
Right.
Had an opportunity as an adult to do things and didn't do them.
Yeah.
And I look back on it now and I think, yeah, look, if I go to certain places, people buy me a drink, shake my hand, have a photo done. Yeah, it's nice. What, for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Look back over your life and you think, what's that fucking cost me by that pint? Or that handshake, or that photo? Fucking far more.
Do you actually even like kind of talking about it in a way? Because in a way you're like a different person now, and then you're looking at this other person in the past. Sort
of, but by the same token, look, I fucking dread to think how many times I've been stopped by special branch military intelligence and fucking all sorts. And in later life, I've been stopped by them, and they've actually confirmed things like the thing with the hand grenades.
Yes. Despite
seeing the hand grenades, knowing that they existed, that was a setup.
Yeah.
Military intelligence confirmed that many years later. No, I think what it is when there was decommissioning, for example, weapons, alleged decommissioning of weapons, and the branch would stop me at whichever airport it was. Yeah. And they say, well, what about the weapons you got, Frank? And I'd say, you show me all the weapons, all the explosives, etc., that have been decommissioned on the mainland, right? And we'll have a conversation, right? And I say, don't worry, fellas. Right? I haven't changed, and that used to worry him. Yeah. I say, I haven't changed. Circumstances have changed.
Yes.
And I'm glad they've changed for everybody.
So you've still got that side to you? Sure.
I can't lose that, can I?
No.
Look, half a dozen geezers walk out that station there, right, and they support whoever, and they're a bit fucking leery, and they come through that door. What's going to happen up here? I'm in fucking liberty, these geezers. Who do they think they are coming in my fucking... That's the mindset. You ain't getting rid of that.
No.
But what do you do about it? Yeah. So if they walk in and they're half decent, having a laugh and a joke, you then go, hello fellas, all right, we see you in London today, you know, blah blah blah. you probably know somebody mutual, or something. It's a different type of conversation. So how much have you changed?
It's just the circumstances.
How much, you know, as I said, when it came to writing the book, I read the book, I thought, fuck, is that me? Because you don't study yourself every day, do you? Don't. There's not someone with a camera following you around at the end of every day and going, this is you, and you go, oh fuck, is it? I won't be like that tomorrow. It's embarrassing, maybe. Look how many, look at the Swallows of the world, right? Look at the Pennants of the world, right? Look at, they've all made little businesses afterwards. They've all got into something else. So it's got to the stage now, once upon a time to say I was one of the boys was a good thing. There's other people saying a bit muggy, isn't it really? Bit muggy. You could have been out, you could have been, you know, running a club, you could have been doing this, you could have been doing, earning a few quid, driving around in a nice car. I know we all take different routes.
But you were actually patriotic. You would say in a way you were better than some of these people because you actually had an extreme cause that was really important to you.
Yeah, it was. But look, I also do this as well. I also see this as well. Someone said to me one day, would you call yourself a terrorist? And I said, yeah, I would. We went, well, how can you just say that as casually as that? You know, you are. And I said, well, I always say this, right? Look at the fella that blew up the Grand Hotel.
Yes.
Right, Patrick McGee.
Yeah.
I did a talk with the Professional Speaking Association, their annual thing, right? International thing in Dublin, of all places, Croke Park. I sat on a stage with the woman, Jo Berry, who Patrick McGee killed her father. They've been working together over 20 years.
Really?
Right, going around the world talking. Right? He was meant to be on that stage. That was going to be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
All right, a big challenge. They all loved her because she was all peace and love and forgiving.
Yes.
What did that make me?
No. So you can't let that go.
No.
I mean, if there was like a Ken Livingstone came in today and wanted to chat with you,
I could admire her.
Yeah.
I could admire her because her sense of reasoning was it's going to the hate is going to destroy her as well. So I get that. Yes. That's her personal journey. It's not my journey. No. So if someone said to me, "There's a hotel at that time," you've got to remember it's a long time ago. Yeah. It's very hard to recreate for people how you felt at that time and the pressures and so on. Yeah. If there was a hotel up the road and Sinn Féin / IRA were meeting, and someone said to me, "Here's a bomb. Go and stick that under a bar in a certain room, and you're going to blow up most of it." Would I have done it back then? Yeah. So I'm a terrorist. Yeah. So I don't have any pretensions about me. No. That's the term.
And you served your time.
That's the term for it. And you know, I've been asked again when I went to prison, was that a deterrent? No, it was a badge of honour. I was part of a very elite club. I was a loyalist prisoner, and I'm very proud. What I will say, there's nothing clever about getting caught. No. And
what happened? You got surrounded, didn't you?
With armed, I'm
police. You absolutely surrounded.
And just to finish that sentence off, I feel sorry for my mates who didn't get caught. Yes. Because they don't get any credit.
Oh, right.
Yes. They don't get any credit, do they?
No.
You know, they're not walking around. I can walk around with a badge, you know, sort of saying, you know, loyalist prisoner. Yeah. They got. I'm one that didn't get caught.
Yeah.
You know, what I do try to do subtly is when I'm in certain company and they're with me, I like to kind of give a nod and wink as if to say, listen, he's close to me. He's from back then. So you treat him with the same respect as you treat me. So I still say there's nothing clever in getting caught, but it does at least admit you had the intent in the first place. You know?
and just to talk a little bit about prison, I mean, you were well respected in prison, and was it, how difficult was it? You ended up doing what?
Well, I'll tell you the first thing you learn. All right, do not think you're special, because you broke the law. You're a criminal. So don't go in there with any pretension and think, oh well, you know, I'm not like this lot. Yeah. You know, I'm better than all them. No. So I learned that very quickly. I thought, no, you know, you're no better. And if you take into account, my walls were covered in art, loyalist art that had been sent to me from the maze, and people just couldn't work out what it was all about. But there was a certain sense of apprehension from people. Fuck this.
Well, you're a serious person.
And even the screws to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But what I did do, Liam, was I learnt very quickly you either fight your way into respect in a prison, which is a fucking dangerous decision to make, because that can go very wrong. You can't fight everyone. Was the use of my tobacco allowance, because I didn't smoke, and then I'd identify other people that didn't smoke, and we'd have a trade up, and then I'd do phone cards. I had cash. This chain around my neck is from prison. You know, so God, it's 30 odd years old, that chain. But I made myself an integral part.
But you did. I was hearing that you did use the boiling water as your kind of defence. Yeah.
Again, look, I think better than violence in prison is psychology.
Yeah.
It's just psychology, and it was purely by accident. Purely by accident. 10 to 8, you go and get a jug of water to make your tea or coffee before you bang up. And probably at that time, God knows how much tobacco, say cigarette, phone cards, cash, trainers, I had all sorts in my cell. And I think the reason I got away with it from the screws point of view, as long as there's no drugs.
Yeah.
Well, I don't do drugs. No. Any drug.
No.
But I suppose my drug is, well, once it was Tottenham.
Yes.
But beer. You know, I like to drop a beer, drop a brandy, but never drugs. No. And I think they kind of gave me a bite of all the screws. Yeah. I was also making hooch as well. Yeah. But I never had it in my room. No. Where there were lifers, I'd paper it to be brewed and kept, but you know, the hot pipes in there, which I tell you, one day one of them blew up.
Right. Okay.
Some of the boys went, Frank, you better come and have a look at this. I went, well, what's the matter? This poor old boy was sitting on his bed covered. He was like fucking Tango Man.
Oh my God.
And the screws come up and he went, I'll say, that's got something to do with you, is it? I said, don't worry, Gov, give it an hour, it'll all be cleaned up. Yeah. And cleaned and it was good as gold. Good as gold. But no, these two fellas, two black fellas came to the door, pushed me. Yeah. Obviously they come to rob me. Yeah. I'm assuming they're told. Yeah. I've got nothing on me other than this jungle ball, so I just launched it. Yeah. There was about that much left in the bottom. The screws come up, they ran off screaming. It wasn't in their face, it was just the nearest bit to them. And what's happening here, Frank? I went, oh, fuck me, I don't believe it. I just come back with a jug of water here. I said, these silly bastards have fucking bumped into me. And they went, you're all right. Yeah. So, of course, I've got a problem, haven't I? They're going to come back at me now, innit? And probably a few more of them and all. And I thought, right, so I've got to prepare for violence now. And there was a bricklaying course. And there are these things, what you call, like I suppose it's to join the brick at the end or something. Yes, it was like a white square bit of plastic and then a long bit of metal. So I thought, well, that'll do. I'll have that. Yeah. And but then I thought, hold on, I'm going to get nicked here. I'm going to get more time here. That's not what my family want. So the first one to come up to me, she said, Frank, you got a bit of snap, mate? I went, no, sorry, mate, shop shut. Yeah, what do you mean? I said, shop shut. Next fella that come up wanted some phone cards. Shop shut. So of course they've all got together, and all the boys on the spur, like, what the fuck are you matter with, Frank? What's all this shop shut bit, rubbish? Yeah. So they come to me collectively. They said, what the fuck are you doing? What's going on? I said, no. I ain't having people rob me. Yeah. What do you mean? I said, the two brothers ran the other fucking... They've all gone round and fucking sorted them out.
Sorted it out for you.
They want a bit of puff. They want a bit of puff that night, don't they? But they need the tobacco, don't they? Yeah. They need to make a phone call to someone. Yes. So they went and sorted it, and so I didn't get any violence, did I? Yeah. But what happened was, there was another time I was coming back and a fella threatened me with a chair leg, and I just said to him, Bill, keep coming, Bill. Keep coming. It's going to fucking hurt a lot more than what that chair leg is. Yeah. And he had to back off. Yes. Went to church one day, an old black boy I used to go with, and he said to me one day, he said, Frankie, he said, you carry on like this, they're going to call you Frank the Baptist. And he just stuck. It was just a silly joke. It wasn't intent, nothing to do with sugar or none of that.
So now that side underneath you, because you come across as this very sort of amiable, nice guy, do you worry about that resurfacing, or is that just you? Or
it actually does. It can.
Yeah.
It can. I'm very conscious of it. Coming out of prison was difficult because you lived in an environment where every day you're expecting it. Yeah. You don't know where it's going to come from. Yes. So you're alert all the time.
And you're still a target now, aren't you?
Yeah, I accept that. Yeah. I do accept that. I'm certainly not complacent about it. I'm not blasé about it. I've said more than once, if I was, there are dissident Republicans. If I was a young dissident Republican on the mainland who was trying to make a name for himself, I think I'd make a thoroughly good target, and I'd accept that. Because if I was 20, 30 years of age back then, I'd have openly said, well, an ex-IRA prisoner is an eligible target. So, I accept that.
But how do you feel sort of walking around now? I mean,
don't let me find it. No. Don't let me find it. It's been fucking bland. Because I will double go on the offensive. I will get back. I'd try and get in first. But no, I'm making a little bit of a joke about it.
You've had this amazing life, at sort of extreme life, haven't you? Where you've been, on the terraces, you've been leading people, charging in, and this and UDA, and all of this sort of stuff, where you've been guns, blah blah, etc. I mean, it must be weird not doing that now and sort of being a normal.
Yeah, because I'm a because you see what
there must be some adrenaline thing. To
you're a dinosaur now, aren't you? People would class me as a dinosaur now, in the sense that that's all gone. That's and you do, look. You imagine being in the army and you being in charge of a detail of men, right? And it's your last day. And you go to the barracks, so your wife's getting everything's packed up and all this and blah blah whatever. And then you're going to go and live in a flat. And he's ex-army, Dave's ex-army. You get up the next morning, what the fuck are you going to do with yourself? No one's shouting orders at you. You're not shouting orders at anybody else. You might go in a local pub and someone might just say something to you and you think, who are you fucking talking to? I'm an ex-sergeant, mate. I can imagine it's very, very difficult.
Do you get the respect now that you have earned over the years?
I'd say in the main, I think so, and I'd like to think people that in my company share some of that respect as well. I certainly hope that that's the case. What's difficult now, because it's going back to the same as what I was saying before about people being fraud, you've now got blokes in their 20s and 30s running around saying that they're loyalist paramilitaries. Now, I had a conversation with a lady, Patricia Devlin. She used to work for the Sunday World, and she interviewed me. She said, Frank, do you realise? She said, I was talking to an old UDA man, and she said, there's more young people joining the UDA now than what there was back during the Troubles.
Really?
And she said, you know what, don't you? I said, they ain't got to do anything.
No.
And that's good. Great. Go and buy yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a badge, get a tattoo done. Just don't do anything fucking wrong. No. Don't throw a petrol bomb at somebody. Don't ruin your life. Go join the army, navy, learn a trade, and then come back to your community and benefit your community. And hopefully the bloke who you would perceive to be your enemy on the other side of the fucking peace line, hopefully he's thinking exactly the same thing. And then, because somewhere you'll meet in the middle. Somewhere you will meet in the middle and have a conversation and go, surely this is fucking better, isn't it?
Isn't there a side of you that would like to do one last kind of hurrah, as it were? I mean, you're still a young man into that. I've got a
lot of regret that I've not used the skills that I've got. And I'm very conscious of my age now, and I watched that. I can't believe it's almost Christmas. I'm thinking, fuck off! I'm only getting over the last one.
I know.
It's a fear. That's probably my biggest fear at the moment is age and health.
Yes. Yeah. Are you in good health?
I could probably lose a bit of weight, probably.
Yes,
But diet could slightly improve. Cut down on the drinking quite a bit. Ironically, we're sitting in a pub, but there's no beer. Look, there's no beer. There's no beer. We've done well so far. No, there's not, because look, there was a man many years ago. He was a politician and he was a paramilitary. A man called John McMichael, and going back many years. He wrote a document with the help of other people called Common Sense. And it was, his words were like, none of us were exclusively right, and none of us was exclusively wrong.
Yeah, that's very wise.
And if we can meet in the middle and have a conversation, let's see how far we can go with that. So that's pretty much my mantra now. I still appreciate it in some areas of Northern Ireland. Look, I look at it this way. If your granddad, your dad, your uncles, your older brothers are all respected in your street and in your community, and they've done time for the cause, that's got to be a pressure on you, isn't it? Because you feel like my family is known for this.
Yes.
You must feel like you want to be a part of that. You must feel like I want to keep that tradition going and keep my family name going and all that. I understand the pressure. I'd rather they become politicians and represent their community, because there's no need for it.
Mind you, I mean, I don't think anybody really respects politicians anymore, do they?
No, you have to be a different type of politician, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to kind of look at the others that exist and kind of go, well, I don't want to be one like that.
No.
You know, if possible.
No.
Some people have said to me, do you wish you'd got more involved in the political side of it?
Could you not now be a politician?
I was in the sense I was doing a bit of community work. We formed a thing called the British Ulster Alliance, and we was going to interface areas where people were saying there was peace. There wasn't peace. And we did a lot of community stuff with children and communities, women's groups, all kinds of things. And
but you could stand as a politician, couldn't you? Have you
I wouldn't now, because again I'd be just look. I'd set the summer. If you invite me to your local church, give it a few weeks, I'll be up in the pulpit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give it a few months, I'll fucking form my own church.
I know.
So do you know what? It's best to just be careful where I channel what I do. So at the moment, it's the walking tour.
Yes,
that's my new extreme.
Tell us about this, because this is really important. We want everybody to know, and we want people to go on this tour, don't we? Tell us about it.
I briefly did a little stint on the Gangster Tour bus.
Yes.
Right. And then me and Michael Goldtooth, we had a disagreement about something. There'd been a newspaper report about the grenades.
Yes.
Right. 4 months old that was. 4 months. Someone decided to give him the cane.
Right.
He was calling me, oh, you're like one of the family now, blah, blah. And I was enjoying on the bus. It was great. Met some really nice people. And he sent me a message one day. I can't have you on the bus, which is all about fun, a bit of education, blah, 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 blah. You're too heavy for me.
Really?
I thought it's a fucking gangster bus.
Yeah.
You've got pictures of villains all over the fucking bus.
Yeah.
I'm too heavy for you.
Yeah.
But it was on the back of that newspaper thing. Not have a phone call, not have a meeting, go, what's all that about? Go, I'll take that notice of that. It's a lot of old. And it was a shame. So my mates went, why don't you do your own tour?
Absolutely.
And I went, well, what am I going to do? And then we realised Camden, everyone knows it for its art, street markets, music, venues. No one's ever discussed the dark side of Camden.
Yeah, no, it's a great.
So that's how we start. That's what brought it about, and I started.
And you've got an event coming soon, haven't you?
Yeah, I've started to realise that not everyone wants to march about in the cold and the rain. Although that can be pretty atmospheric, you know. But purely by chance, I was at a venue a few weeks ago. Got talking to the chap, asked him about the space, and he said, "Frank, you can use it any Monday and Tuesday that you like." And I thought, well, it's the Babel Beer House in King's Cross.
Yes.
And I thought, well, maybe people would like to come along and have a beer and a burger.
Yes.
Sit down. You know, I'll put some stuff up. I'll put a map of Camden up, and I'll walk them through the story.
Is this going to be a regular thing at this place? Or
well, this is a bit of a trial thing. This is Monday the 11th of November.
Right, absolutely. So, folks, go out and how do they get a ticket? Do they turn up?
Well, look, for this particular event, it's via Eventbrite, and they can either just put in Dark Side of Camden, or they can put in Babel Beer House, King's Cross, or events that are taking place over that period.
Yes.
My normal website, which would be Saturday and other things, that would have been with Ticketbrite, but I'm actually going to change everything to Eventbrite.
So that's about a month.
That's probably my new extreme.
Yeah, that's good. And also for people, you've been very kind to give me a book today. We want to hold that up in front of the camera.
Certainly, yeah.
So can people get this? This is Frank Portinari, left, right, loyalist, and is it on Amazon and everything?
Yeah, it is on Amazon, but thanks to Sean Atwood, it also got reprinted as Loyalist Paramilitary Gun Runner. Yes. So if they can't get it like that, they can certainly get. Don't be confused and think it's two different books. I'm not trying to steal money off of people. No. And some people ask, they say, what's the? Yes. They think that's to do with the marching, the bands, like the Loyalist flute bands. And no, it's because I was left. was right.
Yeah.
And then, it's just, as it says, from one
fantastic.
one extreme. No, you're more than welcome to that, mate.
Yeah, and is that you on the cover?
Yeah, I can't get away with anything, could I?
Well, it's been fantastic talking to you.
You too. I'm really pleased. You and your good lady, Yvette.
Yeah.
It's something I've wanted to do for a very, very long time.
And we've been very, the pub, what's the pub called?
It's the Old Oak.
The Old Oak, we're in the Old Oak and they're about to open up the doors. That's why we got to stop this now. But it's been fantastic talking to you, Frank.
You too, my friend. You too.
And we really wish you luck with the tour, so folks go out there, book with Frank. You know, you're going to have a very entertaining time, because we've only really just scratched the surface with Frank. He's got so many stories, and he's a very educated man. Just don't get on the wrong side of him.
I'd rather go and have a pint with someone these days, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
If I want any trouble, I'll just come round here.
Yeah, exactly.
Just come round here.
Thanks very much. So folks, if you like our channel, there's lots of ways you can help us by sponsoring us. You can do it through Buy Me a Coffee, pay us a couple of quid, and that'll help with our travel expenses.
And if you're a small company or a big company and you would like us to talk about your product, promote your product, please do get in touch. There will be a link below.